All right. This evening, we're going to be talking to Jimmy Palmiotti. You've probably heard about him before. He's done a couple things in this industry, um, but he's starting Pop Kill. They did the first issue back in April, and I did a interview with him over on the blog, and I was able to get into talk get him live this time. So let's go ahead and bring him in. We'll get this going. How's it going?
All right, Chad. How are you doing, buddy?
Hanging in there. Hope you are too.
Yeah. Just one day at a time. It's an interesting time to be alive. Glad to be alive, though.
Yeah. So before we get talking about Pop Kill, I kind of like to see where my guests, maybe got into comic books, or if they remember the first comic book that kind of sparked their interest.
Sure. Well, so I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and two older brothers, one younger brother. So there was always, because of my older brothers, there was always comic books around the house. So, I can't remember a time when there wasn't a comic book around. But I think as a kid, I started probably reading Superman and Archie's were like the main, menu of books. But as I had an uncle that owned a barbershop, and he had stacks of comics in him. So I used to read the comics there, and I just always loved them. And I would try to copy the drawings on the comics from the comics. And then when I got probably like 6th or 7th grade, I started collecting them a bit more. And I met a couple of friends in my school that collected comics. So we would get together on my stoop in Brooklyn, and we would read each other's comics. We just make stacks and swap them. And that's where I discovered like Fantastic Four and Daredevil and the Legion of Superheroes, and also horror comics and stuff like that. And then as when I went into high school, I used to shovel snow to make money. That was like a thing you do up north. And I used to go to the Salvation Army, and they used to sell like a giant box of comics, random. You couldn't pick through them. It was just a random box. It weighed like around 5 or 6 pounds. They charged you by the pound, but it was like probably like $1.50 for like 100 or 200 random comics. And the guy at the Salvation Army would collect them for me and then make boxes, and then I would come in and buy them every once in a while. And it was potluck. It was like the coolest thing, because it was like a giant box of random stuff. And it was everything from, I would get old EC comics, 60s horror and superhero. I'd be weird stuff I'd get. It was just everything and anything. Richie Rich, there'd be just so much stuff. And it's probably why I have an appetite for many things. Superheroes is just one part of it, but I happen to love all the genres of comics. And I think that box of comics I used to get was the inspiration for that, having that much variety at my fingertips. And again, when you're that age, you just read. I remember I just used to put them in order, and I had boxes, and I would bag them. I didn't have comic bags back then, so I used like my mom's bag she had for like putting meat and stuff in, and I would put the comics like in 10 packs and stuff like that, and Ziplocs and all that kind of stuff. But it's been like, that my whole life. I mean, as a kid, I loved them, and I would spend so much time reading them and then looking at the art and figuring out why I liked somebody better than another person. And I grew up, and, I loved Kirby on FF, but I didn't like him on other things. And, Alex Toth, I was like, that guy's sleeping at the wheel. And then, later on, I'm like, oh my God, he's brilliant, And even guys like Jim Stranko, I knew there was something special about it. And again, before, I didn't have any art training at that time. So I was just looking at things that really were attractive to me. And I liked the EC stuff because I thought it was like very contained and had backgrounds and everything. And that's how I got into comics. And it's never really left my blood. I still collect comics. If I even look around the room, like I got a bunch of old Wonder Womans, I have comics everywhere. There's a giant James Bond poster behind me from I think, what is it? It's from You Only Live Twice. I think it's from You Only Live Twice. I mean, So my childhood brain has never left. The consuming of pop culture and all that kind of stuff has never left my body, and I'm happy for it.
And what was the what made you want to get into the industry yourself?
I went to the High School of Art and Design in New York because I in grammar school I figured out that I even though I was a kind of quiet kid, I liked to draw, and it seemed like the things I was illustrating, people were like, "Oh, that's really good," So the attention I got was from my drawings. So I said, let me try to pursue that, and I went to high school in New York, made for art, that you had to take a test for, and it was free if you got in. And I did that for a bunch of years. And while I was in high school, I started picking up work from. I ghosted for a lot of different artists. So I was 15, 16, 17, and I was taking on, ghosting work, which is pretty much you work and then you get no credit for it. But for guys like Chick Stone and Dave Simons and a whole bunch of guys, the art teacher would say, "Hey, I got this guy in Queens, needs some help on this Invaders comic," and so on and so forth. And I was like this kid, doing it for $5 a page and thinking it was the greatest thing in the world. It wasn't until like 12th grade when I realized that all the guys I was working for were poor. Comic book people were poor. And I was like, maybe comics isn't for me. And I got into advertising, and I went to college for advertising and art direction. And then the next 10 years after college, I worked in an ad agency. I started in an agency. I did photo retouching. I did poster design. I did a little bit of everything. My clients were like Pepsi Cola, Maybelline, Malpaso, Bill Gold, all these people. And then it wasn't until I was around 30 where I started saying, okay, I think I figured everything out. I think I figured out a way to make money in comics. And I hooked up with a guy I went to high school with. His name was Mark Texera. And he needed help. He was drawing Ghost Rider and Punisher every month. He was penciling and inking it. And I met up with him, and he said, "Look, if you could help me with these books, I'll pay you really well," and this and that. So I said, "I'll do them if I can only work on them up in the Marvel offices." And he's like, "Great." So I would finish my regular 9-to-5 job. I'd go over to the Marvel offices, which is only a couple of blocks away from where I was working. And I would work there all night on helping Mark get some books out. And eventually the editors would see me working there, and they'd walk by and they'd go, "Hey, can you do this book in like a week? Can you, I got a couple of pages. Can you knock them out overnight?" So I became the guy that would, if deadlines were screwed up, give it to Jimmy. He's sitting over there in the corner on a desk. And I would take on anything. Like my name is like on thousands of comics, Marvel comics, because I've inked so many books of theirs. And a lot of them were like, it was a point I was doing like 3 a month for them. And then that's around the time when I met Joe Quesada, and we started saying, well, let's put out our own comics. So that's how Event Comics started. And the rest is my personal history. I don't know how known it is. But, I pretty much, I had all the work ethics from advertising. So I was a guy that if you hired and you told me you needed it by Tuesday, I would walk the job in on Monday. That was my work ethic. So with that kind of work ethic, everyone started hiring me. And then it became pencilers were asking for me to ink their stuff. And then that's when my work really exploded. I started getting work from everybody from Bernie Wrightson to Joe to all these different guys. And I did that for years and years.
So let's kind of transition to the Kickstarter. Like I said in the beginning, you kickstarted the first book back in April, I believe.
Yeah.
And so kind of what is Pop Kill? What's the
Sure.
story about, and what was the inspiration for it?
So, well, it's a 4-issue series. So the Kickstarter that's out now has the last 2 issues, issue 3 and 4. And if you never backed it, you can still go to the Kickstarter and get all 4 issues. We offer that in case you missed the first 2 Kickstarters. The inspiration was a buddy of mine, Dave Johnson, who's an amazing artist, writer, and just one of the best cover artists out there. We were just hanging out, and he said he had this idea about what if the classic Pepsi versus Coke. He goes, what if it was like taken up 18 notches, and all of a sudden there were spies and killings, and they're trying to steal formulas, and what if we made like a simple soda companies competing into this real crazy espionage kind of thing with a James Bond character and a sexy scientist, and we just started building the idea up from there, and then we were like, all right, let's do this as a comic, and we found Juan Santacruz, who I've worked with many times, and he was available, and we just said, let's do it, let's put it together. Let's kickstart it and hope somebody buys it. And with Kickstarter, I've done 15 of them, so I kind of know if something's going to sell or not. But I also know my audience. My audience likes an adult comic, so they like a little sex and violence. They like a little of this and that. And Painkiller is definitely not for kids because it's got nudity and it's got violence. It's got sexual situations, and it's a very much a James Bond, an R-rated James Bond story surrounded by 2 competing soda companies, where we have this female scientist, Dina Deluxe. She creates a formula that keeps soda carbonated twice as long as it is right now, which is, if you think about it, it's ridiculous. But at the same time, if some company figured that out, everybody would want to have that formula because it would the longer life for the soda. It's ridiculous. But the premise is that she has this formula. Everybody wants it. Our James Bond character is supposed to get the formula from her, and he winds up kind of liking her, which happens in everything. And then it's the 2 of them against everybody, and it's a fun, over the top books. The books are oversized, so they're 30-something pages each. They're like 34, 36 pages each. So it's a pretty 4 issues. It's a pretty big, long read. But we did really well with the first 2 Kickstarters, and since Juan finished the last 2 books, we decided let's do the last Kickstarter with both books. And then we went out and got some covers, guest covers by Adam Hughes and Bill Sienkiewicz, and Amanda's doing a couple of covers. So, we know the audience. That we have a half collectors, half I want to read it, half I want to collect it. The comic book mentality. I have both. I want a good comic. I want it to be collectible. I want an exclusive something, so I'm kind of create these Kickstarters for people like me, and I know there's like at least 1,000 of me's out there that want this stuff. So so that's how I figure out the Kickstarters. So far, so good. Yeah.
Taking a look, it looks like it's being well received. And you still have 3 weeks to go.
Yeah, it actually ends on Christmas Day. I didn't notice that till you just put that up there. I'm like, oh, what a nice Christmas present, But yeah, we're happy with. I mean, look, the amount is great. We have a lot of stretch goals where we're going to give extra pages, extra things as it goes. And I think it's doing really well. I mean, we hit the 32,000 in the first day, which tells me a couple of things. It tells me that people were enjoying the book. That got it, because I noticed that like 80% of the pledges were the people that pledged before, so that's a really good sign when it's issue 3 and 4 that people are going right back to it. So we're hoping it keeps going up. I mean, what happens with this kind of stuff is if it goes up really high, we make some money on it. It's great. Everybody benefits. And my 15 Kickstarters, I've never taken the money yet. What I do is I put them into new books. So I'm constantly paying the next, because this is about creating stuff and my own IP and stuff that we can own, the creators can own. And eventually I'd love to just wean myself off of all the Marvel, DC kind of stuff and just do this. It's getting there. That kind of numbers. To be honest with you, I would never sell that many comics if it came out through Image, or I would never make that kind of money. again, a lot of that money goes to production, because if you've seen the books,
Right.
they're like they're really high end production, and I print them in the United States, which costs more, but I want to keep everybody here working, so I don't do the China printing. I don't do any of that stuff. I kind of keep it local, you know. The printer is actually 2 hours from me, so he brings the books up by his car, his little truck, and he brings the books up to me, which is kind of cool.
Very nice.
But it's also a lot of because I'm a control freak, so it's a lot of quality control, paper quality, spot varnish, all that kind of stuff. I'm worried about. Have the density of the ink on the paper. You know, I think it's my experience in publishing that I'm really this picky. You know, I back Kickstarters like crazy. I mean, I backed hundreds of them, and a lot of them, you know, some of them are okay, some of them are, you know, flimsy books. And my attitude is, when you hold my book, you feel like you got your money's worth. That's my thing. Besides the fact of the story and the art, but just the production values are really important to me.
So, what levels of people who want to back the book? What do you have for people at the different levels?
So so out of the gate, we have the the first two things we offer is issue 3 and 4 digital. So you can get digital copies of the books, and it's $10 for the 2 books. There you go, right there. You're going down there. So you get issue 3 and 4 digital, and we have 193 people buying the digital. A lot of people overseas buy the digitals because the shipping, obviously, it's free. We just email them to the people. So and then the next level is issue 1, 2, 3, and 4 digital. So anybody that missed the first 2 Kickstarters, we want to make sure that all the books are available, and we got 58 backers there, so they get all 4. And then after that, we get into the actual copies of the book. The standard issue 3 and 4 are $35. And there's 2 issues. You get the 2 issues, plus you get all the digital books. And then it becomes collectible stuff after that. Like, you get the Bill Sienkiewicz and Adam Hughes. You get both books, the exclusive limited covers by them, and so on and so forth. So every level is made for different people. Like, Amanda does 2 limited edition covers that nobody can see until you get it in the mail. So that's the fun. We know they're adult covers, but until you get the package, you'll never see the covers, and it's limited to 200 copies. So that's like for the super, super high-end collector who want a book that there's only 200 copies in existence of. We print to the Kickstarter. So again, we have the regular. We want people to read the book, but we also want to involve the collectors that like exclusive material. And it goes from there. It's all different levels. I always say to people, if you don't have that much money, the digital levels are pretty much what it would cost you to buy a digital comic on Comixology or anything like that. So they're not priced. These are 30-something page books with sketch sections, and they're so for $5, it's a pretty good deal, and you're getting some beautiful art as well. So.
And so your imprint is PAPERFILMS, is that correct?
Yes, that's so it's a company Amanda and I formed in 2001, and we've been we do comics, but Amanda and I do a lot of other work outside of comics. I work in TV and film. I've had a film come out this summer, Random Acts of Violence, that I produced, and that's on Shudder Network right now. And then she does stuff. Amanda does artwork for TV shows. She did, Big Bang Theory. She did some art for them. She recently, not too long ago, she did for the spin-off show Young Sheldon. She did some work for them, and then she does a lot of other kind of work. Amanda's an illustrator and a designer, so we do stuff outside of comics as well. But comics is our true love.
Well, kind of getting back to comics, one of my favorite projects that you did, it was 2015, I believe, was the one I did with Darwin Cook for the Courage Brewing, the beer. And basically, what you guys did was you took a story, you put on 6 bottles of beer.
Yes. and Dutch courage is, obviously taken from the term when people get really drunk, they get this, I call it a Dutch courage, where they're so drunk they can do anything. And of course they can't do anything. They're completely useless. Yeah, I have the bottles right here. I'll grab one. Grab one. It was a real fun project to do. They're a little dusty. It's a little dusty. Let me clean it up. But there you go. We can. This is the one where Dutch courage gets hit by an ambulance. Let me see. Get it up there. So it was a.
Luckily, at the time, I had a friend living in Chicago, and we did a beer swap.
Oh, they did, yeah. So there's it, and we did them so all the bottles tie together, the 6-pack ties together, and there's Dutch getting hit. It actually was a lot more offensive and adult, and we didn't know that the beer. I mean, to put something on a beer label, there's this like group of people you have to go through, and so in order for it to be approved, we had to change a couple of things on it. But Darwin and I couldn't resist it. Darwin lived around 5 minutes away from me down here in Florida, and I went to him. I'm like, look, I got this gig. We design beer, and they give us beer. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, if we do a comic strip for this beer company, they'll put it on beer bottles, and then we'll get a bunch of beer, and we'll get paid too, and we can own the character. And he's like, well, what are we gonna do? And I said, I got a thing. It's this guy, Dutch courage. He's just like he's like a scared guy until he drinks, and then he gets really tough. But everything he does, it screws up, And I think we killed him by the end. But Dutch courage has a lot of lives. He might come back. Unfortunately, Darwin's not going to come back. So I mean,
yeah, unfortunately.
And we modeled it. We wanted to model it after the guy's like a little bit of a hipster. He looks a little like you, actually. What am I doing here? Look at that. That kind of looks like you a bit. Yeah, look at you. That could be you.
Yeah, I know.
He's got the glasses. He's got the beard. Do you have a shirt like that and shorts like that?
I don't know, but ever since I've been working from home, I've taken a liking to wearing flip-flops.
Chad, your new secret identity could be Dutch courage. Just look both ways when you cross the street, okay?
Well, next time if we ever have cons again and you're at a con and I'm there, I'll cosplay as Dutch courage. I'm sure you've never seen that before.
I have not. And he has a little dog too. So if you want to bring your dog, do you have a dog?
I have 2 of them. They're black labs, so.
Well, he's brown, but we could change the coloring.
Now, have you had anybody bring the bottles or anything to have them sign?
Absolutely. They bring empty bottles all the time to have them signed. I've signed plenty of bottles. Mine is still full because I don't have, when Darwin passed away, I was like, I don't have I just want to keep them. I don't know. These little reminders of them. So, but yeah, we've signed a bunch of them, especially when we go up north. All of a sudden somebody has a 6-pack and they're like, oh, okay, sign all the bottles. They didn't print that many, but they obviously printed enough that comic book people got them, So it was such a fun gig to do.
I think they only did 2 other 6-pack collections like that, the one with Jason Aaron and the Walking Dead guy. I know who you're talking about. Did we break the mold after that? Is that what happened? I guess so. It was Festive Rotgut, and then the brewery did one for Mike Norton and Tennessee right. Backslash, I believe.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea, and Amanda and I are always about. They wanted Amanda to design a wine bottle someplace, but we couldn't get to the gig. They wanted to put the pro on it, and they wanted to call it Pro Wine, and then put the prostitute on it, and we didn't get to do it, unfortunately. But I have a feeling once things get back to normal, we'll be getting that kind of craziness. they're fun gigs that you don't make money on, but they're so much fun to have. It's it's fun to do.
So, is there anything else that maybe I forgot to ask you about, the Kickstarter?
Sure. I have let's see. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go to my table, see what came out this week. Okay. Here we go. It's actually in stores now. Amanda and I did a story in this book. Let's see. I'm going to get it's the Multiverse Who Laughs. There's the Super Pet. She did a Super Pet story. I don't know which one's the alternate cover, to be honest with you. I can't tell. But we did we did a Super Pet story in there, which had Harden with all the usual DC suspects, Beppo and the cow. Streaky spits out. You can see Streaky spits out Green Lantern's finger with a ring over to the bottom here. He gags up. We did that, and so that came out recently, and then we just have the last Harley and the Birds of Prey book, which is number 4, probably coming out by the end of the year, by the end of the month, or maybe the first week of January. Amanda's finishing that up right now, and that's it for DC for a while. We're there's nothing. The thing with Amanda is it has to interest her. Otherwise, she doesn't want to do it. We do have an announcement I can't talk about. We're doing a book for another company together. Sure. We're writing it.
No worries.
Yeah, we're writing it, but it's like a mini series, and basically we're working on our own stuff. Amanda and I have a couple of books we need to get on. Like Captain Brooklyn was one we're doing with Frank Thierry, and then we have 2 series that we're going to do through PAPERFILMS. So we're going to do it ourselves. We're a little tired of being censored and told what to do. And it's been happening a lot more and more with the comics now. Anything you do that's even a little off character, they like rein you back in. So it's kind of hard to write the mainstream stuff right now because it's kind of losing its edge slowly. And that's why you see a lot of creators going and doing their own things, because there's nothing worse than being excited about a script, and then by the time the book comes out, it's like half of what you wrote, or they've changed half of the story. And it's happening a lot because, let's be honest, these big companies, these are licensed characters, so they want to keep the license intact. They want to make sure, they want to make sure the Batman sheets and pillowcases are not too crazy or something, But it's a money-motivated business, and I think for real creators that really want to do their own thing, money's like not the top of the priority thing for them. I think doing your own thing and creating your own characters, that's definitely a lot more of the what you're going for as far as when you create. At least somebody like me who's been around. I've been around for a long time, so it's widest thousands of books with my name on them. But the thing I have learned is the stuff that has made me the happiest is usually the stuff that I've either created or recreated, or even something like Harley, where we kind of went in and punched it up and changed it a little bit. Those are the successes we love. But there's been a lot of work I worked on, and I was just like another guy doing Batman, or another guy doing, Spider-Man, or another guy doing X-Men. It's great, but in the end, your legacy is not those books. Your legacy is whatever your legacy hopefully is, your own character.
Right.
So I do spend a lot of time overthinking everything, as we should. We should always, But that's it coming out. We have some more Kickstarters. Like I said, PopKill is till Christmas Day. You can get it. After that, I spend the next 4 weeks shipping them out.
I was going to give you a chance to final pitch.
Oh, well, I will say, give it a shot. Go look at it. It's on Kickstarter. If you put in PopKill or you put in my name, you're going to see it. Give it a read. There's a lot of art as you scroll down. There's some beautiful covers by some guys. There's a lot of interior art to look at and see if it's your cup of tea. I mean, that image right there, that's Dave Johnson. I mean, the guy's one of the best. It's such a beautiful piece of art. right there. Somebody told me it reminded them of Andy Warhol, the logo and everything today.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I kind of can see that. It has that big, poppy feel. Obviously, the word pop kind of brings that home, but yeah, give it a chance, give it a shot. Look, if you just want to get the digital, I'm happy to do that. I love when people get digital comics. It's one less package I have to worry about the post office screwing up, and so I'm really happy about that. But give it a look, and like I said, I've done 15. There is not a single person who complains about my Kickstarters because I make sure every package and every person is taken care of. I don't have people complaining, where is it? I don't have people going, I don't like it, or I never got it. That doesn't happen in my universe. In my Kickstarter universe, everybody gets their product. If they're not happy, they write me a letter and we talk about it and we find a happy medium. So again, it's a grassroots kind of thing. So every customer to me is the most important thing there is.
And where can people find you, like on social networks?
So on Twitter, under my name, J Palmiotti. If you look under Palmiotti, you'll find it. And Instagram, it's my name again. That's pretty easy, Jimmy Palmiotti. And then is that it? Oh, and then the website is paperfilms.com. That's the Mandarin Art Mind website where we sell our books, we sell our digital books, and we sell Amanda's artwork. So check us out.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak this evening, and if you enjoyed yourself, maybe we can come back when you can, announce any of your other Kickstarters or your projects.
Absolutely, but this is great. I appreciate the attention. I do.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and maybe one day when they start doing cons again, we'll run into each other.
That's it, and we'll share a Dutch courage beer together.
Right, and I'll be cosplaying him.
Perfect. Which means you'll get plenty.
All right, have a good evening.
You too, buddy. Take care.
All right.